All right, friends, episode 3, segment number 9. Again, we are on the inspection contingency still. There's just a lot to understand regarding the inspection contingency, but now we are going to unpack a little bit the process of negotiating repair requests or requests for credits for the buyer to repair certain items. And there's a lot of understanding that needs to happen at this stage. You've prepped yourself to understand. You are putting yourselves in the shoes of the buyer when it comes time to understand their financing, how much cash they may have on reserves outside of their initial earnest money deposit and their deposit, their down payment with the bank to actually fund their loan. You are putting together the pieces of the puzzle to help yourself understand how the buyer might act once they've received information from their inspector and now they've got new question marks. We've talked about this a number of times in all of these videos. Your job as a seller, one of your many jobs, is to remove as many question marks as possible from the buyer's mind so they're satisfied with your home and the property that they're purchasing. They can move past these different thresholds. Having done that prep work, you understand the buyer that you've gotten in contract. The contract has been signed, their inspections have been done, and now the buyer has received their inspection report, and they're coming to you with requests for repair or requests for credit for them to repair. You are considering their financing alongside their mentality is the point we're trying to make here. Folks who are doing very low down payment, FHA, VA loans, typically speaking, have very little cash on the outside of their lending process to facilitate these sorts of repairs. Keep that in mind as we walk through the inspection itself, as we described in the last episode, and as we walk through the negotiation process. You took careful notes during the inspection. You know which findings in that inspection became the most problematic, raised the highest eyebrows, so to speak. Now, let's say you receive a request for repair from your buyer that is a laundry list, and this happens, especially in a traditional market where buying and selling pressure are generally equal. The buyers are going to ask for the sun and the stars and hopefully get the moon. The case is the same now. However, it's a seller's market, so you get a little bit more leverage. So let's assume you get this laundry list. You know that a leaky roof, problematic heating system, pest infestations that are going to destroy the wood infrastructure of the home. These are big ticket items, right? And folks that don't have a lot of money, they don't have the funds to correct these sort of things. There's a number of ways to solve this issue. The buyer finds more funds, you correct it yourself before closing, or you offer credits to either the buyer so that they can have the cash on hand, or directly paid to a contractor that would then facilitate those repairs post-closing for the buyer, so that the bank is actually financing those repairs, which is, in a lot of cases, a very easy way for things to go. But let's boil it down a little bit further. There's generally speaking 3 things that can happen once you receive a request for repairs, etc. You can tell the buyer to take a walk, take the house as is, or we're not doing the deal. Compromise on items that you're either going to pay for or repair yourself, or swallow it all and do all the repairs. Now what has to happen is taking the understanding of what you know already about your buyer and their financing situation, understanding what you believe they could potentially compromise on not having repaired versus what must be repaired, either A, for them to either get their loan, or B, for them to be comfortable either living in this place, and you're going through their laundry list of items and requests, singling out those you think are the biggest ticket items that they won't be able to pay for, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the buyer may not have any idea how much it might cost to cure those big ticket items. Their agent might have no idea. You might have no idea. And if you don't got no stinking realtor on your side who is going to call up all their friends in the construction industry to get you those quick answers, it's up to you to find these people. Generally speaking, you'd like to have them at least acquainted with you and the fact that your home's going to be on the market and you're going to be looking to survive inspection contingencies before you start calling around, because frankly, you haven't got a lot of time. 10 days to 14 days have already elapsed from the day you signed the purchase contract. The buyers conducted their inspections and now they're looking to negotiate. If you can't get past here and the deal dies, It's already been a couple of weeks to 3 weeks by the time you're putting your house back on the market looking to attract another buyer, and now the market will be worried. They're going to be trying to figure out why your house came back to the market. So you want to approach these contractors as swiftly as humanly possible to get estimates of cost on repair of these items. Maybe they can do it topically with just you talking about the inspection findings. Maybe they need to come look at the house. Maybe they need to come get underneath the crawl space and actually functionally look at what is going to be necessary to repair for you to understand the costs involved. That way you can then try to offer, hey, I might cure this myself. I might fix this because I think I can do it for less than you might be asking. Or they might not be asking. They just might be asking for you to repair it. I'll give you X, Y, Z as a credit, a dollar amount as a credit off the purchase price so that you can facilitate these repairs post-closing. Whatever the case may be, however you're going to respond, you need as much information as possible. So get a hold of these contractors and these service professionals as soon as you can. Now, just because it might cost $3,000 to repair your deficient heating system doesn't necessarily mean you have to offer that $3,000 number directly to the buyer. Again, negotiations are just that. Both sides are asking for the moon and the star, or the sun and the stars, and hopefully get the moon. Make sure you are negotiating in your own best interests, trying to get the best deal for yourself. Lastly, we need to understand and act accordingly to hopefully keep the buyer, keep the best number from the buyer, while not letting the house come back to market. You really do want to compromise here, and there's a cost involved if you fail. If you don't manage to get past this negotiation process and you end up back to market, you can expect a real reduction in the ultimate price that you achieve for your sale because the market is now a little bit worried about what might be going on with your house. Why is the house coming back to market? What happened during the inspections that brought the house back to market? Now, another thing you need to understand is that the inspection report itself, in most cases, was purchased by the buyer. The inspection itself was hired. The inspector was hired by the buyer, spent their money. So that report belongs to them. If they're making all these claims about, hey, all these items in your house are deficient, they should probably substantiate which items actually are deficient. So they're going to want to give you the inspection report, or you should at least ask for it to corroborate that these things actually are deficient. We'll go over a little bit more in the next episode regarding disclosure, but one thing I want you to understand now is that anything you learn on paper from a licensed professional that you didn't know previously, you now have a duty to disclose to the buying public. So if it's some wood-destroying infestation, pest problem that you hitherto were unaware of and aren't in your property disclosures, and that buyer asks you for some credit for a wood-destroying pest infestation, if you have not received the inspection report from a licensed professional, you don't necessarily have knowledge. You have hearsay. The buyer has said that there is a wood-destroying pest infestation. Maybe you offer the credit before getting the inspection report so that if we can't finally get past the inspection contingency and the deal does blow up, you don't necessarily have to disclose that to the next buyer. We understand probably that it's going to come up in the next inspection, but at least you've gotten beyond that little quirk of real estate law and not having to put something on those property disclosures as a new material defect in your home. If your property comes back to market, yes, they're going to find that problem again. We touched on in a previous episode that some very diligent home sellers might do an inspection before their home ever comes to market, and they can issue that property inspection report to potential buyers. If you've done that, you've also bought yourself a hell of a lot of time to invite service professionals and contractors into your home to do the estimates on the potential deficiencies that might be present so that you can also have a smoother negotiation with a potential buyer. You also have that inspection report to hand to buyers during the offer process so that maybe folks might waive their inspections. But I'm mentioning this again now, again, for that disclosure piece. Things you are unaware of today don't necessarily have to get disclosed to the buying public, and you can get buyers on the hook maybe at a higher price without having had disclosed those facts. Once you pay for an inspection and receive an inspection report, it's knowledge that you have and you have to disclose it. Let's remember those things. You've got to weigh all these options in mind. It's very specific to your residence, your property, wherever and whatever it may be. And because you haven't got any stinking realtor, it's going to be your job to make the right decision as to, do I do an inspection pre-listing? Do I give an inspection report to a buyer to try to get inspections waived? Do I allow the buyers to pay for their own inspections? Do I negotiate? You get the idea. It's a lot. If your brain hurts, like, subscribe, and comment down below that you would really like a realtor's help. And maybe you don't want a realtor for the entire song and dance. Maybe you are very well educated after watching all of these videos. But there are a couple of pieces that we touched on that really feel like they're outside of your scope of expertise or your bandwidth to handle with everything else you've got going on in life. Hey, we've got a menu of services. You want a specific part of the seller's realtor's job done by a real estate professional, you give us a call. We'll work out how much it's going to cost you, save yourself some, and you've done yourself a favor. We'll see you on the next episode where we are going to talk about how to document and move beyond the inspection negotiation part of the contingency. See you there.